Now, this is so important, I'm going to say it again. Very few things I repeat twice. What we pay at the gas pump for a gallon of gasoline is a form of taxation that goes to those who control the world. And before I finish my lecture tonight, I'm going to tell you who they are. You're going to be surprised. Well, I know what you want me to do. You want me to say certain names, don't you? Well, instead, I'm going to tell it to you as I lived it. Because you see, what you've read about in other books, not necessarily the truth. You're going to be amazed at who they are. Gas prices at the gas pump in California will be $4 to $5 a gallon at the gas pump in the very near future. And Dr. Stan Monteith, a very reputable radio talk show host, said to me on the phone the other day, Lindsey, you're wrong. It's going to be $6 to $7 a gallon, and it wouldn't surprise me one bit that he's not right. And when it happens, your standard of living in America and mine is gone. And it's all done by a design plan that I knew about 25 years ago. And I've tried my best to warn the American people for 25 years. And this may be your last chance to do something about it. Those in Washington are scared to death. They're scared to death to tell you the truth. They don't dare tell you the facts. I'm going to in a few moments. And you take it to them. And you try to tell them yourself if you can. Otherwise, we've had it. Why don't they tell you? Why doesn't President Bush tell you the truth? Why doesn't Mr. Cheney tell you the truth? CEO of Halliburton at one time. He knows it. Why don't they tell you the truth? I'll tell you why. They know what happened to John F. Kennedy when he did. And they shake in their shoes. They know what happened to Larry McDonald on Flight 007 when the powers that be had him destroyed. They know what happened to George Hansen, the man from Idaho who was in the Congress of the United States of America, and they destroyed him, destroyed his family, his home, his position, and after they had totally destroyed him physically and mentally, they patted him on the back and said, "Oh, George, go on. We can't find a thing wrong that you've done." Every man in Washington knows. Even to some of the congressmen you respect, and they wouldn't dare tell you the truth. But here it is. It'll be on tape tonight. I have it back on the table already taped. There was, back in the 60s or 70s, a gentleman by the name of Henry Kissinger. He was Secretary of State of the United States of America. While he was Secretary of State, he traveled to almost every oil-producing country in the world. He went to Saudi Arabia. After all, the Arabs had been nothing but nomads, roaming the deserts, riding on camels for many, many years. And he said to them, "I'll make you rich. I'd like to cut you a deal. And if you will go along with my deal, I'll see to it that we buy oil from you in America." Now, watch carefully and you'll understand why that oil from the North Slope of Alaska cannot be allowed to be brought to the refineries of America. Are you ready? Henry Kissinger said, "I'll cut you a deal." Oh, they said, "What is it?" He said, "We'll buy oil from you. We'll make you wealthy. You'll be sheikhs and sheiks. You can have everything you ever wanted." Oh, they said, "What's the deal?" He said, "Number one, you must denominate all oil sales in dollars." Oh, they said, "Gladly. We have no problem with that." He said, "Secondly, you can have a certain percentage of that money to build your own country, your infrastructure, and the people that are there and to supply for your country, but you must take a certain portion of the money that we buy oil from you with. You must take a certain portion of those American dollars and buy our national debt. They didn't have the slightest idea what they were doing when they signed on the dotted line. And today Saudi Arabia and the other oil-producing countries of the world have no choice. They must denominate in American dollars, and they turn around and buy our national debt. Is the only thing that is keeping the American dollar afloat today. There were two countries that wouldn't sign. You're going to find this very startling. I'm going to give names and dates and places. I never did this prior to 6 months ago. I knew it for years. You see, it finally gets to a point that you have one of two choices. Either be a slave in your own land, or tell the truth and hope somebody will listen to you. And that's the reason I came here tonight, to try to get a listening ear before it's too late. There were two countries that wouldn't sign on the dotted line in the days of Secretary of State Henry Kissinger. Number one was Iraq. Saddam. He was too independent. He said, I'm not going to be obligated. The largest known oil field on the face of the earth is Saudi Arabia. Second largest oil field on the face of the earth is Iraq. The third largest oil field on the face of the earth is Iran. I'm going to talk about Iran tonight. You're going to shake in your shoes when you leave from here. I'm not pulling any punches with you this evening. It's either now or never. Either something is done now, or we are slaves in the very near future. Saddam said, I'm not going to sign on the dotted line. He had to be destroyed. Oh, there are a lot of people in the world just as evil as Saddam. A lot of Russian leaders that have killed more people than Saddam ever did. And yet we joined up with them in the last war. There are a lot of people in the world. Why did Saddam have to be singled out? Because he wouldn't go along. He wouldn't denominate in American dollars and buy our national debt. And President Bush Sr. had no choice but to destroy him. Now there's a name you'll want to jot down. The name is Abner Dethry. D-E-T-H-R-E-Y. I give it to you for one reason and one reason only. He appeared with me on a radio talk show just a few weeks ago. He has never done it before. He worked for the State Department and the CIA and was one of the individuals that was sent by our State Department to Saddam Hussein in February through May of 1990. To tell Saddam Hussein, our State Department will not intervene if you invade Kuwait. It was sent by our top officials and echelon to Saddam. We will not. You do remember that prior to the last war, that Iraq and Kuwait were one country, and Saddam was merely going back in to take back that which had been divided after the last war. And our State Department sent the message by Abner Dethry, who appeared with me on a radio talk show. It is recorded by the talk show host, and he said he took the message to Saddam from our State Department to tell them, we will not intervene if you invade Kuwait. It was all a setup by George Bush Sr. Because on August the 1st, 1990, Iraq invaded Kuwait. It was intentional. Our State Department wanted an excuse to topple Saddam.